A Greek default would be difficult to deal with. A Spanish default is one which would keep people awake at night. If you had to compare Greece and Spain, Spain is the one to watch. Spain is the trigger for something which is much, much bigger, at least from a European and a global perspective. I don't think a Greek default would have the same effect as the Lehman collapse. In the case of the Lehman collapse, we didn't know who Lehman was trading with, and so you didn't know who else was potentially going to be affected. In the case of Greece, we have a fairly clear idea who the principally affected countries will be. It'll be France and Germany. And though their governments have been taking steps in this respect with their own banks as well, trying to get them to reduce their exposure to Greek assets. What you need for a Lehman-type collapse is for there to be so much fear about who owes whom what, that the credit markets freeze up and no one can borrow. And I don't think we're at that stage yet. On the other hand, once you get to Spain potentially defaulting, then Spanish debt is held much more widely. And more importantly, Spanish banks operate across the globe. They're very heavily exposed in Northern Europe through Santander and also through Latin America. So you could see a much more global reaction to a Spanish default, I think, than to a Greek default. First, they have quite high debts, less than Italy, but they have a banking system which everybody doubts we really know just how bad it's doing. There are serious doubts that we've been told the truth about the state of the Spanish banking system, and this has caused a lot of uncertainty in the markets. And you've seen in the last few weeks that whenever Greece's interest rates on its long-term debt have risen, so have that of Spain's. And I think, if anything, there's been more of a reaction with Spanish debt to the Greek problem than Italian debt to the Greek problem. And I think overall then, what we'll expect to see is a contagion potentially to Spain, and potentially very quickly as well. And there the Spanish government will have to come clean very quickly on the states of its banks, which are a problem. Now, it should be said in defense of the Spanish government that they have done the most to reform of any of the southern European countries. They have progressively introduced steps over the last 2 or 3 years which no other government in that part of the world would dare to have done. They have reformed, and they have signalled their intention to continue to reform. So in that sense, they've helped to try and offset their long-term competitiveness problem. But of course, the short-term funding problem, which these crises are always driven by, is still there. And so Spain may well need a sizable bailout down the road. At the moment, no one wants to talk about that because they're scared enough with what could happen to Greece, let alone what could happen to Spain.